Good stuff.
What's up, guys? It's your man, Donovan Sharp, and welcome to this edition of TSR Live, presented by Happy Hippo Herbals, home of the highest quality kratom on the planet. If you are looking for a caffeine-free energy boost with laser focus, look no further than Happy Hippo Herbals. Again, guys, you guys all know about the promotion they've got going on there. You pay with Bitcoin, you get an additional 25% off of your entire order. That includes your shipping. All right, well, let's go ahead and get to it, guys. My guest tonight is a fellow Return of Kings contributor. He's written numerous books on pickup and game. His magnum opus is 7 Laws of Seduction. He's also written books called How to Get Hot Girls into Bed and How to Be an Asshole. This focuses mainly on dark triad game, narcissism, Machiavellianism, etc. Gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Troy Francis into the towers. Troy, how you doing, man?
Hey, all good, man. How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. We were just talking off the air about the project that we did a couple of years back when I was down in Vegas that kind of fell with a flop. But, I mean, look, I enjoyed working with you. You look great. And, of course, now I've changed locations. What have you been doing with yourself since the last time we talked?
Well, there's been a lot going on. I mean, as people may know or may not know, I'm based in London, or I have been based in London for a long time. And London is, by the way, talking about game, London is a fantastic place for game. It's just, the population is nearly 10 million. There's loads and loads of hot girls there from all over the world. It's great for day game. The night game there is good as well. So it's been a fantastic place for me. And I've been there for over a decade and basically working sort of corporate jobs while doing the Return of King stuff and while doing game on the side and my writing and everything else. And this year came to a bit of a watershed because I gave up the corporate job. I decided to concentrate full time on my writing and on my, my game stuff and my, my other projects, and to live a slightly more kind of nomadic sort of lifestyle, so traveling around a little bit more. So while I'm still going to be predominantly based in London, at the moment I'm in Berlin. So as we speak, I'm in Berlin, Germany. And, tomorrow I'm going to Russia for a few days, and there's going to be a lot more traveling on the horizon. So I can sort of taste those fruits, particularly in Eastern Europe, of different girls and write content on that, which hopefully will be helpful to other guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just off the top here, do you have experience gaming Russian girls, Ukrainian girls, Polish girls, etc., or is this going to be your maiden voyage out there?
No, well, so I have, but predominantly within London, because there's a load of those girls within London already. So the Russian population in London is massive. They own half of London these days.
Yeah, right. You can say that again.
Yeah. Loads and loads of Eastern European girls over there. So loads of Polish girls. Probably Ukrainian girls a little bit less, but nevertheless, I've dated Ukrainian girls there. So certainly I've dated I've dated a load of Polish girls. I've dated a number of Russian girls. So I'm actually going to see a Russian girl tomorrow over in St. Petersburg, which should be cool. And I've dated Ukrainian girls as well. So what this is more about is, rather than doing it in London, where that's my home turf, this is about taking it to their locations and sort of, doing it on their playing field, if you like.
All right, good stuff. Guys, if you have questions for Troy, put them in the chat. I'm going to read just a few texts here. I'll give a few shout-outs. Shout out to the Mod Squad, Simply Deep 1985, Sharp Assist. A Black, see you in here. Suede Senator, good to see you in here. Everyday Dre, for once, wasn't the first guy in the chat. He's been Dre, this guy, Everyday Dre's been the first guy in the chat for like the last month and a half. I'm sorry, he finished 1, 2, 3, finished 5th. Yeah, Sharp Assist pointed out, Dre is late. Unbelievable. So Capital of France says, hey, I love this guy's book. So obviously your reputation precedes you. Let's go ahead and start things off here with the first question. And I've done shows, I've done paid content on this. What do you feel is the biggest reason why most men are afraid to approach pretty girls? There's a lot of approach anxiety. What do you feel are the biggest factors, if not the biggest factors, of dudes not being able to just walk up to a girl and say, hi, I'm Donovan. Hi, I'm Troy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a big question. I think there's certain sort of evolutionary biological reasons for it. For a start, if we think back to how things were back in sort of primeval times where, or tribal times rather, where there would actually be a physical danger potentially in approaching a woman, because if you approached a woman from a different tribe and then, you got rejected, then potentially that could end up with you getting driven out of the community, or even killed by the, the alpha guys who are sort of protecting her. So, if you think about it from that standpoint, thousands and thousands of years ago, there would have been, actual physical danger involved. And I think that sort of, that still resonates with us even today in 2017. However, of course, these days, really, the reality is in most cases, there's no physical danger at all in approaching a hot woman. Okay, yeah, if you're in a club and she's with her boyfriend and his 20 mates or something, then yes.
He's 102 kilos, something like that.
Yeah. Then yes, potentially, there could be a problem. But generally speaking, there's no physical danger at all in approaching a hot girl these days. So, that brings the question that you're asking, which is why are guys reticent to do it? And if we discount the sort of, as I say, the sort of, the remnants of that primordial fear, I think what it really comes down to, and this goes all the way through the seduction process, is I think it's guys' ego that's getting in the way. Because what they don't want to happen, what we all don't want to happen, is to get our ego punctured. So at every stage of the seduction, we're afraid to push things forward, because if we push things forward and then we get rejected, then we're going to feel bad about ourselves.
So it's, basically guys are afraid of rejection. We don't want to get our feelings hurt. And listen, you and I, we've approached enough women. You and I could probably tell stories for hours about the worst approaches we've ever done. Girl, I mean, oh my God, girls tell, I'm blowing you out. I'm not interested. Who the hell are you? You're too this, you're too, I mean, I don't date black guys. I don't date guys with small feet, etc. Not that I have small feet, but listen, we've heard it all. We've seen it all. And I mean, I've been through some pretty bad pickups, and some of them, Troy, are so bad that like in the moment, I actually think this isn't really a blow to my ego. This is fucking hilarious that this girl really thinks this much of herself that she's going to stand here and curse me out because I walked up and said hello. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, some girls are ridiculously bitchy and ridiculously, unpleasant, really, and unnecessarily so, because, like you say, you're just coming up. If you're anything like me, and I suspect probably, the way that we approach, it's not going to be mega aggressive. It's not like we're going in there and sort of coming out with some bullshit. We're probably just looking up and giving a compliment or saying hi or whatever. And sometimes they can shut you down really bad, and and that can be a blow to the ego. But and it is ridiculous, because what planet are they on? Why are they being like that? But I think, as I say, I think the point is that we fear rejection, but I think it's sort of, it's kind of more subtle than that in a sense, in that approach, there's an infinite possibility of things that could happen. So you see that hot girl, and say you see a hot girl, and maybe she even smiles at you. So you're on the train, the platform, she kind of gives you a smile. Now, at that point, in your head, you can think, she smiled at me, she probably thinks I'm cute, maybe we could go for drinks, maybe we'll end up in bed together, this could be amazing. But you don't want to puncture that reality, that sort of imaginary scenario, because if you walk up to her and you say hey and she says get lost, then all of a sudden you've punctured that, and you're left with that reality, the stark reality that actually none of that's going to happen. So a lot of guys would rather retain that fantasy than actually test it against hard reality.
I agree. And a lot of guys that I counsel, a lot of guys that I advise, the one thing, and listen, you preach this as well, is outcome independence. Okay.
Yeah.
When you see a pretty girl, when you see a hot girl, don't let your mind wander into, oh my God, I wonder what her tits look like. I wonder how good she sucks dick. Oh my God, this girl would look amazing on my knees with her bra off. Nah. Take your time, slow down, understand that she's a girl that you would like to get to know, go up and approach. You want to have, I don't want to say don't have any expectations, because otherwise why approach at all? But if you become emotionally attached to the outcome, then if and when she rejects you, and most of the time, Troy, this is the way it goes. If you're a veteran in the game, your ego is going to be punctured to the point where a lot of guys, when they first start out in game, they experience more rejection than they had probably. They think that if I listen to Troy and if I listen to Donovan, I'm going to go out, talk to 10 girls and get 10 phone numbers. Not quite. You probably get 6 or 7 if you're good, and half of those girls probably won't even respond. So I think it's very important that guys out there go in, they're outcome independent. And here's another thing you touched on. A girl, you could see a hot girl at the bus stop, you know, at the train station, on the platform, whatever the case may be. The girl could be, that girl could want to fuck you right then and there, okay? And she might still reject you. Maybe she's going through something. Maybe she's on her period. Maybe, I mean, there could be any number of reasons why she rejects you. Think of the number of girls, Troy, that who had rejected you when they were oozing IOIs, oozing indicators of interest, but you didn't close the deal. It could be any number of reasons. And guys have to understand, don't take it personally. It's not you. It really is them.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, you know, there have been occasions where I've been rejected by somebody and then I've hit them up again at some later point in the future, and it's ended up, you know, it's ended up happening. You know, the stars have aligned. We've ended up, you know, going out and sleeping together or whatever. So I'm thinking of one girl in particular who was a stripper, actually, really hot girl. I met her in a club, not where she was working, but just in a regular club. And she was, that night, she was with another guy. And I just went up to her and I said, hey, I think you're really cute, or something. Yeah, I mean, pretty lame. I mean, nothing particularly clever, but I just said, hey, I think you're pretty cute. You know, I'd like to, you know, whatever, get to know you. And she sort of said, yeah, she kind of said, yeah, not tonight. But she blew me out. But it was sort of, she wasn't unpleasant about it, but she blew me out. And the guy came over and he started to give me a little bit of aggro. And I stood up to the guy, actually, and I kind of think that may have had a bit of an effect, because I think she saw that and maybe that kind of sowed some sort of seed into her mind. But anyway, I then saw her again a few nights later, as well, a week or so later, in a different club. And I went up to her again and I just kind of opened her again. And this time we ended up making out.
Very nice.
She gave me her number. But she was still kind of in a relationship with somebody, and it was all complicated. So then we went into long game. So then we're kind of, I'm texting her, pinging her every now and then. She's pinging me, whatever. And it was about probably 3 months later, but then we end up, you know, we go out and we sleep together straight away. And then we get into a thing, you know, where we're sleeping together. And I'm not recommending that as a template for game, but at the same time, it kind of goes to show that, you know, no doesn't, how can I put this? No means no, but if you're rejected by somebody in the first instance, that doesn't necessarily mean that at some point in the future they're not going to be more open to it. You know,
that is listen, that is absolutely right. Again, a woman's cycle. I mean, dude, listen, you could approach a woman who is on her period. You might see her again, and she might be ovulating, and she might, oh my God, I was hoping to see you again. Here's my number. I need you between my legs now. This is how fickle women are, and I always say this, Troy. Women they're unstable creatures by nature. Because of their cycle and their body chemistry, they are never chemically identical from one day to the next. So you never know what could be. You could approach a girl one day, she could blow you out one day. The very next day, you see her at the same bus stop, see her at the same train station, and she might start talking to you. You just never know. So just because a girl rejects you right off the bat doesn't mean she wasn't attracted to you in the first place.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And you can't really tell. You know, so all you can do is keep approaching and keep testing it.
That's exactly right. Shout out to Eric P with the $2 super chat. He says, to the Christmas tip jar. Appreciate that. ETF42 says, love Troy's work on ROK. Doesn't look like I expected him to. I'm sure you get that a lot, Troy. I know I did. Listen, people didn't believe I was black until I actually showed my face. They're like, oh shit, Donovan Sharp really is black. Holy shit. ETF42 also says, rejection is the norm. Men should be taught this from a young age. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, I wasted the first 18, 20 years of my life. I mean, okay, not all of it, because some of it I was too young. But sure. When I became, you know, of an age where I could have girlfriends and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I wasted so many years worrying needlessly about rejection. You know, it's sort of like, oh, what if I ask this girl out, but I can't possibly ask her out, because if she rejects me, the whole world's going to collapse. You know, the ceiling's going to fall in, and, you know, whatever. And now I look back on that time and I just think, shit, I wish I'd have realized when I was, you know, 17, 18, 16, you know, whatever, because rejection really doesn't matter at all. It just doesn't matter. You know, that's the thing. And I mean, the sooner the guys, if there's any sort of younger guys listening to this and they can understand that, then, you know, your 20s and your 30s are going to be so fantastically awesome, because the more that you can realize that and you can just bulldoze through and keep going, then the more success you're going to have. And this applies, by the way, within game, but it also applies in life in general. You know. Yeah,
it's a numbers game, right? I mean, the more you step to the plate and swing the bat, the more hits you're going to get. That's just how it is.
It's definitely how it is. I mean, I think it's a slightly complicated one, isn't it? Because on the one hand, it is a numbers game. but on the other hand, that's not to say that there isn't, you know. And
Sure.
I know we have this we have the day gamer Tom Torero, who's based in the UK, who does some great content, and I know he said a couple of times, if you put me in Oxford Street in London, and if you put me and another guy who isn't trained in game in Oxford Street in London, and we both go out and hit on 100 girls, then who's more likely to be successful out of the two guys? And of course, really, it's likely to be Tom Torero, because he knows a lot about female psychology. He knows a lot about game. He's been doing it for a long time. He knows how to escalate. He knows how to spark attraction, all of these things. So, but at the same time, you've got to learn technique as well. And that's why, you know, game is still a valuable resource for guys.
Absolutely. Like I said, I guess just to further, Mike, just to kind of piggyback off what I said, no, you can't get as many hits if you don't step up to the plate. That doesn't mean you can't have a high batting average either. And that's where game comes in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You need both. You
right.
Definitely.
You need opportunities and you need skill. Shout out to Jamaica Peppa for the $10 super chat. Good to see you in here. All right. Anti-Gravity 74 says, damn, I came in late. You haven't missed too much. Talk to me, Troy, about your own approach anxiety. Did you ever experience that? And how did you overcome your anxiety talking to pretty girls? What was the strategy that you used?
Oh, I mean, man, 100%. I mean, like I said, I mean, when, you know, from an early age, from 16, 17, 18, you know, I was terrified of approaching girls. I mean, I had a lot of social anxiety anyway. You know, my family background there was some problematic stuff in my family background. I was quite withdrawn. I was quite sort of socially awkward. So there was a lot of stuff going on anyway. And even though I've got 3 sisters, so I was brought up with girls. So in theory, I should have been cool with it, but I wasn't. Because I was so tied up in my own self-image. I was so sort of tied up in this idea, if somebody rejects me, it's going to be the end of the world. It's going to be like Armageddon. And so for a long time, I was terrified of approaching, and I really didn't do it very much. And that's why I kept getting into these, when I was at school, these terrible situations of sort of like being friend zoned, kind of being attracted to women who weren't, or girls who weren't interested in me, you know, being obsessed with them for 6 months, getting blown out, you know, terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. And then when I went to university and I started going out, I was still kind of this idea of approaching. I mean, I just literally never did it. And I don't think that's uncommon. I mean, I don't think for a lot of guys that's an uncommon thing, you know. So then you're kind of then at the mercy of the market, because you're just sort of, your strategy is I'm just going to hang out and hope something happens. You know.
Oh yeah, listen, we've all heard the guy say, you know, I just play it cool and let the girls come to me. That's code for I'm afraid to talk to pretty girls.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, and it's sort of like, I mean, you might have a circle of friends, or you're at college and there's people, or you work with certain girls, and you kind of just hang out. And the whole strategy is just, I'm just going to, you know, be here and be alive, and I'm going to hope something happens. And for me, unfortunately, that strategy just didn't work. You know, it just didn't work. And so, in terms of how I sort of got into approaching, I mean, I think to be completely honest, I became less self-conscious about all of this stuff when I talk quite a lot on my site about drinking, and you know, I was a heavy drinker for a long time, and I was using other substances and stuff, so I had some issues in that area, and it's a double-edged sword, because that was a very bad thing for me in my personal life, and I mean, I no longer drink and I don't use substances anymore. As a result of that, but at the same time, it had a positive effect in the sense that it opened me up. So all of a sudden, you know, I kind of didn't give a shit anymore. So I did start to talk to people. I did start to talk to girls, and I started to get some sort of results from that. But again, they were very patchy. It was very sporadic, because I didn't really know what I was doing. You know, I mean, I got through a hurdle of like, but then I didn't really know what I was actually doing.
All right. Well, Banastri Tarleton says, my nigga Troy. Good stuff, man. Listen, we cross all color lines here, man. You don't have to be a black man to be bestowed upon with the N-word.
I remember a girl saying that to me once. Actually, I was dating this Turkish girl in London, and she called me that, and it kind of took me.
Wow.
she was kind of a hip hop type girl, and I don't know really. And she just called at me, and I was like, shit. It was like that's ghetto. She's hot, but she's you know kind of.
Looks aren't everything, right? I think we've established that. Okay, so we've gotten over our approach anxiety. So now we start approaching girls. You see a girl, I guess in your situation, you know, on the platform, at the train station, whatever the case may be. What are the most common shit tests that you encounter, that men will encounter during an initial pickup? What are some of the strategies that girls like to use to not only shoo you away if they're not interested, but what are some of the shit tests that girls use to sort of kind of filter out the real, you know, the boys from the men?
Well, I mean, there are certain things that they all say. I mean, there are certain sort of questions that almost every girl that I've ever either slept with or even dated has asked. And I mean, they tend to be, what are they? I mean, one of them is they will always ask your age for some reason.
Yes, of course.
Nearly every girl will ask me how old I am. And
you know what? It's funny. Let me cut you off right there. This is and this might be next level game, but something I have always done is as soon as I approach a girl in the elevator, grocery store, coffee shop, whatever the case may be. Hi, I'm Donovan. You are? Well, my name is Amy. Cool. And I'll kind of do a kind of look. How old are you? And I hit them just like that. Girls hate hate it when you ask them their age. Now, hold on. Now, girls in their early 20s, they're more than, I'm 22. Ha 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 ha. They'll love to tell you their age then. But women, if they don't answer directly, you know that they are in their 30s. And at some point, they'll ask you what your age is, and that's when the game is. How old are you? Well, how old do I look? Or how old do you want me to be? You know? And then they kind of chuckle, and then it's on from there. But please continue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that that's necessarily a massive shit test, but it's certainly something that they'll always ask. But then they'll often say something like, I mean, another classic one is, why haven't you got a girlfriend? Or why are you single? Or why aren't you married? So they might say something like that. I mean, that might be a little bit later on in the interaction. I was texting a girl tonight, actually, and she just gave me that exact thing. So they'll try and probe it a little bit, because on the one hand, they might be impressed that you've come up and talked to them and you've kind of opened them, and you know. To
me, that's a marker of attraction. When a girl says, "Well, why aren't you married? Why don't you have a girlfriend?" At that point, she is telling you that she is attracted to you. So if you're this attractive, why don't you have someone?
Well, she is, but then at the same time, she might be sort of saying, "Well, hang on a minute. If you're trying to present yourself as this kind of alpha dude who's a player, then why haven't you got a woman already?" Now, what they
show me the baby.
Now, what they don't understand, of course, is that actually, I don't necessarily want a girlfriend. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily want, you know, I've had girlfriends. I don't necessarily want to be tied down to one girl. But they don't really understand that. They think, well, you know, if you're this amazing player, then surely you would have hooked some really hot girl, and you probably would be married to her by now. And of course, they don't realise that's not actually what my objective is. You know. What else do they say? I mean, sometimes if it's like a day game scenario, sometimes they'll say something like, "Do you all?" This is one. They say, "Do you always do this? Do you do this?"
Yes. Do you use this on every girl? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, I'll tell them, well, yeah, actually I do. But, you know, by the way, just taking the temperature, how am I doing? I always get a laugh at that, because guys don't do that. They just don't do it.
That's the two that they always come out with. So they ask about the age, and they say, "Do you do this to every girl?" And they come out with some variant of that. But of course, then the classic sort of shutdown default comment that you get is, "I've got a boyfriend," which they will say to sort of, you know, to shut it down sometimes within the first couple of seconds.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That is a difficult one, really, because what can you do about that? And guys will say, well, you know, this girl, I was talking to her, she said she had a boyfriend. Is it true? Is it not true?
Doesn't matter.
Exactly. I mean, the reality is, who knows? Who knows if it's true or not with that particular girl? You just met her. It might be true. It might not be true. Whatever the case, she's blowing you out. So you may as well, you can try and push it a little bit, but then you may as well just say, okay, cool, whatever, and then move on to the next one.
Listen, more times than not, listen, I've gotten the "I got a boyfriend" thing a lot, especially early on, but I've converted a lot of those girls. Some of my go-to lines, "I've got a boyfriend." Well, he's not invited. Wait, invited to what? What, you don't remember giving me your number? We're going out on Saturday, right? And you kind of look at her and smirk, and then you kind of get a laugh out of her. Or she says, she, you know, "I have a boyfriend," and I'll just tell her, I'll look around and I'll be like, "You're lying to me, aren't you? Are you lying to me? And that'll always get a laugh. You always have to throw it back in their court and see. And listen, I don't have to tell you this. I guess I'm really telling you this more for the audience sake. But yeah, I would say if 10 girls give me the "I have a boyfriend" line, I could probably convert to maybe 3 phone numbers out of that, and maybe continue the conversation with 6 or 7. So the "I have a boyfriend" thing is definitely, it's one of the tougher ones, especially if they really do have a boyfriend and they don't feel like cheating on them at that point, because at some point they will feel like cheating. That's a difficult one, but it's not impossible to overcome if you. I mean, listen, if your prospects are low, if your prospects are slim, hey, fuck it, go for broke. Yeah, he's not invited. Invited to what?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it does say I've got a boyfriend, and I just look at him and say I don't care, or
I don't give a shit. He's not invited.
Or just recently, because I've been in my mood's been quite good recently. I've been doing quite a lot of approaching, so now I kind of fucking around with them a little bit. So they say I've got a boyfriend. I'm like, yeah, but does that really matter in this day and age? You know, it's pretty.
Wow. I've got a boyfriend. You know, well, I've got a girlfriend, but we're standing here talking, aren't we? Right?
We're all seeing something. I mean, like, you know, fuck you. I mean, you know.
That's great, man.
What I will always try, well, not always, but 99% of times, what I will try to do is to get some kind of contact details from them. So if they say I've got a boyfriend, I'll say, okay, that's good. And actually there's a line by Paul Janker, who's a friend of mine in London.
Oh yeah.
I don't know quite how well this works, but it's quite funny. Is you say to her, okay, I understand you've got a boyfriend, so how about this? We'll exchange details, and then I'll leave it for 3 months. And then, because, you know, let's face it, a lot of relationships, they don't last, or things happen, things change, you know, people move on. So we'll leave it for 3 months, and then in 3 months' time, I'll send you a message. And if you're still with the guy, absolutely fine, no problem. And we can see what happens. And I sometimes say that, and that kind of gets a laugh. And sometimes, you know, generally speaking, what I'm looking to do is to at least get a Facebook ad from them. Because if you get a Facebook ad, then suddenly you're connected on social media. You can see what she's posting. You can often get a sense if she's broken up or not. So there's a line of contact there, and in the future that may turn into something.
Off the cuff here, is Paul still married?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow, he fucking did it, man. I couldn't believe, dude.
Wow. He's, as far as I know, very happy. It's all going really well. So he's. Wow. Yeah. So there you go. You know.
You see, ladies, listen. And listen, Paul is a platinum level player. This guy is a veteran of the game. Listen. I mean, I don't know how you're cut out, Troy. And I love the player life, but for me, having one quality woman beats fucking 100 sluts. That's how it is. The only reason why I became the way I am is because I had to. Right? Like we had to adjust. We had to evolve, and this, unfortunately, is this is at everyone's detriment.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's an interesting one, and I talk to him a lot about this as well, because it's sort of like, you know, he's obviously had the same deck dealt to him as we have, and yet he's met somebody. Well, for a start, he's met a quality woman, which is the first thing. But secondly, he's obviously made a decision. He's obviously thought, actually, this can work, and in spite of all the naysayers and everything else, I'm going to do this because this is the kind of life that I want. And you know, I think to some extent, I mean, and then I look at myself, and I mean, I talk about this on my site a lot, because at the moment I'm in a slightly more, you know, kind of nihilistic mood about it in a sense. I mean, I'm a little bit more like, well, it's all gone to shit, so we may as well just as long as we can, and you know, come what may, sort of thing. And I mean, you know, arguably, if I change my attitude about that, then maybe I'd have a better chance of making something longer term work, you know, because obviously it's kind of worked for him up to this point. But this is a side point, really. But, you know, it's partly in his mindset, I think, that he's managed to a successful relationship out of that.
Good. ETF42 says, women think commitment is for men's benefit. He actually took the words out of my mouth. When girls ask you or me or whoever, whatever, why don't you have a boyfriend? They assume this is one of the great mistakes that women make. We know as men, at least we do here in the red pill sector, we know that men and women are different. Okay. We know that we know that women are motivated by different things. We know that men are motivated by different things. Girls assume that their objective is also our objective. So if a pretty girl came up talking to us, I might imagine, okay, you're kind, you're feminine, you're beautiful. Why aren't you married? Why don't you have a boyfriend? Well, there's obviously a very good reason why she does not. Girls assume that we want the same things that they want, and that's just how that is. I mean, and they project that onto us with these shit tests.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, I remember this girl. I went on a date with this girl one time, and I'd met her through Day Game. And as it turned out, she had been in a relationship with another quite prominent sort of pickup artist kind of guy who worked for one of the companies in London. So she knew a little bit about the whole thing. But I went on this date with her, and we were talking about our the people we've been dating, all this kind of stuff. And I said to her, and to be honest, I wouldn't recommend this because I was probably trying to impress her a little bit with my playerness. I was trying to sort of project that kind of image. And I'm not recommending that guys do this, but I was telling her about the fact that the year before I'd been dating 5 girls at the same time, because I had been. I've been dating 5 girls at the same time. They used to come around, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Different one would come around, and and that was a lot of fun, but it was exhausting. And I had to, so I kind of let them go. So they all kind of dropped out of the orbit and moved on. Anyway, I was telling her this, as I say, partly as a very crude, unsubtle sort of demonstration of higher value. I was like, hey man, I have 5 girls on the go. And now you're not seeing any of them. What happened to them all? So, instead of impressing her with my pimpness, do you know what I mean? Instead of impressing her with the fact that, yeah, man, I pulled 5 girls and I was banging them all at the same time, she looked on it as a failure. It failed. She looked on it as that I dropped the ball because I hadn't managed to keep any of them. Of course, what she didn't understand, I have a very a very low boredom threshold, and a very low attention span, and unfortunately, it gets to the point where I'm dating a girl for a little while, and I'm kind of looking on to the next thing, and I'm sort of looking to to move on from that. So, but girls don't really understand that because they think the same things that they do. We want that lifelong commitment, whatever, and that's not always necessarily the case.
Gentlemen, you are listening to TSR Live with special guest Troy Francis. He can be followed on Twitter at Troy7Laws. He has written books like The 7 Laws of Seduction, How to Get Hot Girls into Bed, and How to Be an Asshole, which focuses on dark triad game, narcissism, Machiavellianism, etc., etc. He's written for Return of King. How long have you written for ROK at this point? Because I started back in March of 2013. Or 2014, rather.
I think 2013. Yeah, it's about 4 years. It's about 4 years.
Yeah. So and again, your shit, man. Like, that's what people need to understand. In order to write for a site like Returning Kings, in order to write for guys like Roosh, you have to know what you're talking about. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, I'm really grateful to Roosh for giving me that opportunity. And it's been really valuable for me, really, to grow my writing in that area, because I mean, I've written before for other people, and I've written sort of fiction and different things before, but to write about game and then to have that discipline about writing about game on a weekly basis, because I still don't have an article up this week yet, but I still write every week for that site, and that's been pretty consistent over those years, and being forced to sort of, no one's forcing me to do it, but having that commitment. So Roosh is there with a pickaxe, like,
yeah, right, yeah, mush, god damn it.
Yeah. But having that discipline, having that commitment to coming out with content every week has been really useful for me in terms of writing about game, but also in terms of my actual game, because then I'm forced to look at it and sort of try to analyze what I'm doing so that I can explain it to the readers. And so the whole thing has been a really useful experience for me, without a doubt.
Yeah, this is where I got my start. Return of Kings is the very first. Like I do all sorts of stuff now. I mean, I've got this show. I've got I'm gonna restart my sports my Red Pill Sports podcast here in the next few months. I've got this show. Obviously, I've got paid content. I write for another website, but it all started with Roosh. So I definitely owe many thanks to him as well. So now we've gotten over approach anxiety. You're talking to a pretty girl. You're escalating. Now you want to ask for a number. A lot of guys out there think to themselves, they say, Troy, I'm talking to a girl. I've overcome the shit test. Time is getting short. I don't want to spend all day talking to this chick. What's the best way to ask for a girl's phone number? What's the best way to number close a chick?
Well, I think basically being very, personally, I'm just assumptive and I'm direct, and what I will always try to do, and actually I made this point before, but to reiterate, what I will always try to do, or certainly in 99% of cases, I will endeavor to do from her or to get some contact details. So even if the interaction has been, not very good, or it's been bland, or it's been a bit flat, I will, at the end of it, I will almost without fail say to her something along the lines of, hey, listen, I've got to go now. I've got to go meet some friends. I've got to go to a meeting. I'm busy this afternoon, but it's been really nice to talk to you. Another time I'd love to take you for a wine, or I'd love to have a coffee with you. So let's exchange details. And what I've done for the longest time is to just, I've had iPhones for years, so I just have the iPhone open. I open it to the bit where you put the number in.
Yeah.
And literally just hand her the phone and just say, let's exchange details. Hand the phone over to her. She takes the phone, and then it becomes this almost Pavlovian response where she just starts.
Yes. She starts dialing. Yes. Listen, anybody who listens to me, and listen, I'm 100 and your episode 107. I'm 172 episodes in.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's 172 episodes. I'm probably at 223 videos. But dude, all of my listeners, viewers know I am the hand your phone to the girl guy. Like, here, put your number in my phone. We'll hang out sometime. Obviously, I do it. You have to do it more smoothly than that. But yes, what you are doing is you are giving a woman instructions. You are commanding her to do something. You are getting used to being ordered. Well, listen, we're in a man sphere. You're getting her used to being ordered around. You are getting used to her being told what to do by you. And just like you said, it's almost a Pavlovian response. When there is a phone in her hand and numbers on the pad, it almost compels her to dial that phone number. Yeah. A lot of number closes, and you never ever ask, hey, can I have your number, please? Dude, 11 times out of 10, she's going to say no. Here, put your number in my phone. Or you seem cool. It was nice talking to you. Put your number in my phone. We'll go out sometime.
And you can almost present it as being almost like it's so normal. Why would it? It's sort of like, it's almost a bit rude if she doesn't, because it's a bit like, hey, let's put your number in my phone. Well, whatever.
Sure.
Almost make her feel that it would be sort of wrong socially for her not to do that, because you're a cool guy, she's a cool girl, you're talking, you've met. Why not exchange details? Maybe you can hang out another time. It shouldn't be a big heavy type thing like, oh, please can I have your number because I want to talk to you. It should be very casual, but why wouldn't you do that? Because you're both living in this town, you're both cool. Why wouldn't you hang out at some point? So that's kind of how I try to present it. I mean, the only thing that now, and actually, another thing on that point, which is really, really important, is that it's very, very, very hard to know. In fact, I'd say it's impossible to know from the initial approach which of those are then going to lead on to anything it's significant in the future. So I have had amazing approaches with girls. I have,
you hit all the marks, you overcome all the shit tests, you get the girl's number, and she goes cold on you.
Absolutely. I've been in London. I've met girls. I've talked to them for half an hour. We've had this amazing bond. You walk away and you think, fucking hell, that was amazing. I might as well just give this whole thing up, because not she's the one in a sort of putting her on a pedestal way, but you think that was just, she was really into me. That was perfect. That was how it should always go. And then you message her and nothing comes back.
And nothing. So, listen, I'm sure you've experienced this too. You open a girl, she hits you with all the shit tests. You're like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to stay in there. She doesn't blow you out. All right. You stay in the set. She's still talking to you. So at the end, listen, look, you seem cool, even though you think she's a bitch. Here, put your number in my phone. She puts your number in the phone. Okay. Well, I'm a little bit surprised at that, but you have to go for it. All right. I'll shoot her a text when I get back to the house. And surprise, surprise, the girl you didn't think that you were going to be able to get the number for, she's walking in your house wearing a T-thong. All right. And then 30 minutes after that, she's on your knees sucking your dick. You never know, man. A girl could look like she's hot for you and go completely. And listen, it's just like you. And as veterans of game here, girls they live in the moment. Like at that very moment when they're putting their number in your phone, they could be more excited than anything to want to get to know you, to go out for a wine, go out for a coffee, go out for a beer, whatever the case may be. Dude, 2 hours later, she's thinking about something else. You text her 3 hours later and she doesn't remember who you are. Like this is how fickle girls are with their emotions.
Absolutely. And of course they've got all of the other distractions as well.
Yes, the 73 other dicks that are swinging in her directions. Yes,
yes,
that's absolutely right.
Guys on Tinder and the guy that she met at the bar last night and a friend of a friend and all that kind of stuff. So you've through all of that noise, and while you might have done that in the moment when you approached her, that there's no guarantee that when she walks off that she's, like you say, she's going to remember you. But yeah, as you say, I mean, exactly the other side of that coin is the approach is crap. And it's all a bit lame and embarrassing, or you don't talk for very much. You just say, I'll tell you what, let's exchange numbers. And surprise, surprise, it's her that ends up you. It's her that you end up getting out on a date and, you end up sleeping with or whatever. So it's really hard. And even having done this for a long time and having dated a lot of girls and having approached a lot of girls and, been in all these scenarios, to know whether something's going to come off or not. The proof is really in the pudding. It's not over until it's over. And it's very hard to tell.
Shout out to Charles Merchant with the $20 super chat. He says, for my brother from another mother, man, I'm out here repping the 775. I should take off my Reno Aces hat and put on that Vegas 51 hat. Appreciate the support, Charles. Good looking out there. ETF42 says, I rarely ask for numbers. I give my number to women and tell them to text me. If she texts, she's interested. What are your thoughts on that, Troy?
I don't do that. I mean, I have heard some guys saying that. It's for one thing, it's kind of a classic blowout when a girl says to you, "I'll take your number."
Right. Yeah, here's your number. Well, I'll take yours. Nah, man, it doesn't work that way.
It's basically a polite way that she's trying to blow you off. So, and also as well, I mean, I think even with the best will in the world, I mean, yes, he's right in the sense that if you give your number and she does call you, then she's on for it. That's fantastic. But the chances of that happening are quite slim, because even if she does like you, I think the guy is still expected to be proactive. The guy is still expected to be the one who is pushing the interaction forward. And unless you have her details, you can't do that. You're beholden to her. So for me, if I don't know. Even if I was in some scenario where I could be 100% sure that she was gonna call me. Maybe if I was, I don't know, if I was Justin. I'm trying to think of an analogy.
Justin Bieber.
I'm trying to think of an analogy where I could be 100% sure I give my number and she would still call. I would basically still want to take her number, because as the guy, I feel like I should be the one pushing the interaction forward, not only because that's what most girls want, but also because I feel that should be my role in the interaction. My role should be the dominant role within the interaction. For me,
I would agree.
Yeah. So for me, not only I'm not convinced that it really works to just give out your number, but secondly, even if it does on occasion work, I would rather be I would rather be the one out of the two of us who's in the driving seat, who's pushing things forward, because that should be my masculine role.
I would agree. I think the one exception, and I've never tried this out, but if you guys are looking for a way to give your number to a girl, just kind of act like you don't give a shit the whole time, run extreme asshole game. All right, well, look, man, those are my friends. Here, give me your phone. Wait, what? Give me your phone. Okay. Grab the phone. Here, call me, text me. See ya.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude, that'll wet her fucking panties, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, the way I've always looked at it is, I mean, there are best case scenarios, and then there are what's the minimum that I can do here that will potentially move it on. And when you approach a girl, unless it's going to be a one night stand or something like that, which is the relatively probably the 20 rather than the 80%, if you like. You want to be established. The minimum that you want to try to do is get a way that you guys can contact each other again when you've walked off.
Right.
So the best way of doing that is that you get her contact details. Now, whether that is her phone number, or if it's her Facebook, or even if it's her Instagram, I mean, I don't know, God, you can even do Snapchat these days, whatever. You've got some sort of way that you can get into contact with her. Now, if you can't even do that for some logistical reason, then yes, as a last-ditch attempt, why not give her your number? Because you never know. And actually, in spite of everything I just said just now, there have been occasions where I've given my number to a girl and she has contacted me, and it's gone on to something's happened as a result of that. I can think of two in particular. So there was one. There was a girl. It was actually in a strip club, and I was talking to this Lithuanian girl, and it was kind of on. She liked me and everything. And I said, well, let's exchange numbers. And she said, I can't because I can't give it out because I'm working here. And I mean, that is, I think, probably true. I think that's often a rule that, I mean, you know, they can get around it, but there is some value in that. So she said, give me your number. And I was like, well, she's clearly not going to give me her number because she's saying she can't, or, you know, whatever bullshit. Right. So sorry, what do I have to lose? I'll write down my number and give it to her. If I don't hear from her, it doesn't, you know, who cares? Sure enough, later that night, she did message me, and then we ended up seeing each other. So, you know, that works. Another time I was in a restaurant. I was, I think, with some work colleagues. This girl was with, you know, her work colleagues. There was some eye contact going on, but it would have just been really socially awkward for me to go over and, you know, hey, you know, do the whole player thing. So instead, I passed my number to her, and again, she contacted me. So it can work, but it wouldn't be my go-to method.
Yeah, it's almost like and ETF 42, he actually clarified this. He says, let me clarify. He says, you have to give her instructions to text you. And I forgot what Tariq King Nasheed. He is a veteran. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a black guy here in the States. And dude, he's been running game on females since before anybody can remember. That's exactly what he does. That's what ETF 42 actually said that he does. Tariq Nasheed is all about, you know, giving instructions to women. Hey, text me. And that's what works for him. I don't think that that's something that I would be comfortable doing because I'm a control freak. I like to be like, I like to be in control of the interaction. I like to dictate what goes and what doesn't. I like to decide when I'm going to push the action forward. And because girls like to listen, even though girls have 84 dicks thrown in their direction, they like to be pursued. They want to be, they have more respect for a man who is going to put his ball, not to say that ETF 42 doesn't put his balls on the line when he gives women instructions, different strokes for different folks. There are many, many ways to run game, but the way I like to run it is I like to show a girl that I am in control. I am going to push the action forward. I'm going to ask for your number. And ETF 42 says he got that from Tariq. And Tariq Nasheed, listen, his results speak for himself. So there are many ways to get to start interactions with women, and not everything is for everybody. I can certainly attest to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. I mean, one thing that is interesting about what he's saying is that I'm becoming recently quite interested in this idea of more interested in this idea of dominance in terms of giving instructions, telling them what to do. You know, she's the little girl. You're the one in control. And it kind of always links in with, I mean, I had a girlfriend who was very into BDSM, you know, sort of you know, all of that stuff. And I'm not massively into that, but I am interested in it. And sort of as a result of her, I started looking at it a bit more seriously. And I've read some books and things recently. And there's a very interesting whole strand of that stuff that could be pulled out for game, because I mean, so many girls are into this. So many girls are submissive. They are into the idea of, and I'm not just talking about, you know, sort of tying up and spanking and things like that, although that can be a part of it, but also, you know, receiving instructions, being told what to do. And I think there's something very interesting in all of that stuff. And I'm not saying that's where he's coming from, but it could almost link in with that, because you're meeting the girl, you're being very dominant, you're saying, okay, I'm going to give you my number. You will call me at 9 o'clock tomorrow, and you will just be wearing your white lingerie, and you know you can almost take it that far. It's an interesting one. Maybe I'll give it a go. I don't know. I mean, I think like you, I kind of come down on the side of wanting to have a bit more control, certainly in the initial you know, situation, because in order for it to work, you will have had to have built very strong attraction from the off. She will have to be pretty damn into you to follow those instructions, because that early in the interaction, then there just isn't enough of a relationship between the two of you. You know, you're some random guy from the street. So clearly, you know, this guy's probably very good at doing that, and you know, all props to him for that. Maybe I'll give it a go, but as I say, I think my default is always going to be to try to get the number myself, just so I've got that little bit more control over the interaction in the early stages.
Now, so you've got the girl's number, and one of the biggest, and I'm sure that you can probably speak to this, Troy, but one of the biggest problems, or one of the biggest challenges that men have in terms of game. So they're over there, they approach the girl, they get the number, they strike up conversation, they set up the meetup. Then comes the flaking, right? This is an example that I always use with people. If I approached, when I was at the height of my playerdom superpowers, if I approached 10 girls, I'd get 7 numbers. Of those 7 numbers that I got, 4 of them would text back. Of the 4 that would text back, 2 of them will agree to a meetup. Of the 2 that agree to a meetup, at least one of them is going to flake, maybe both. Then if I meet up with the one, I might have a 1 in 3 or 4 shot of fucking them that night. That's, I mean, this is what we're up against. So take my audience inside the strategies, the method in preventing flaking, or is there?
I don't know. Well, I mean, when you say flaking, do you mean when they don't turn up at all, or if they cancel like an hour before, or just?
Well, yes, right. Those are one and the same. Oh my God, something came up. I can't make it tonight. Yeah.
I haven't. How can I put this without sounding like an arrogant dick? And I don't mean
please do. Listen, no filter, Troy. We want you to be.
Nobody's ever flaked on me ever. No. I haven't had. It's not obviously. As I went on, I found that I had less problem with flaking.
Okay.
Now that's not to say I'm not trying to say I'm some fucking like mega player and I put no foot wrong.
Yes, listen. Hold on. Yes, you are, and that's okay. That's all right.
No, thank you very much.
Hey, by the way, this is something I've caught. You've mentioned strip club and strippers twice in the show. All right. Listen, I lived in Vegas for 7 years, man. I've got a lot. I mean, all the guys that listen to me know. So you're definitely welcome in the towers anytime. If you're going to talk about strip club game, bro. I got you.
100%.
You're welcome in the towers anytime, but please continue.
Thanks, man. No, 100%. I'm a big fan of those girls. But what was I going to say? It hasn't been such a consistent problem for me in the last few years that I've felt that I've had to really sort of devise a methodology to sort of deal with it. I mean, having said that, a girl flaked on me the other night. Well, I had a very suspect situation the other night where this girl I thought flaked on me because I went to meet her. I basically said, meet me at 8 o'clock. I turned up. She wasn't there. I was like, she's flaked on me. And then I texted her some bullshit, and she came back and she was giving me all this stuff about like, oh, I was there and I messaged you and you didn't reply, and I was like, well, look, I've got
whatever.
But then she agreed. But then she was, and then she was going home and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, yeah, she's bloody flaked. I mean, whatever. But she was so sort of persistent about it. So then I was like, well, look, let's meet up tomorrow, and we ended up meeting up bizarrely. And I wrote,
shit.
Yeah, bizarrely. I mentioned this on Twitter because I would never normally do this, but we actually
hell no. And they would normally never show up. But you got her to meet up. You got her to agree to a meetup after she flaked and she showed up. Troy, you're a fucking god, man.
Well, so we went for breakfast, which is the lamest kind of. I would never advise that as a date, except that the only reason I did it was because I was leaving London to come over here, and I'm not going to be over there now till after Christmas. So I wanted to get a little bit of FaceTime in. So we met for this breakfast, and terrible, against every rule in the PUA book. But actually, it went pretty well, and now she's texting me selfies of herself and all this kind of stuff. So
good.
Anything can work, but going back to flaking, so I don't know whether she'd actually flaked or not. Maybe it was a genuine misunderstanding.
Maybe.
I suppose I think what it might be is I get less flakes, but I do get a lot of rejections, and I suspect what it might be is that because I'm being quite direct and because I'm putting it on the line, I tend to get blown out up front, and so that filters out the ones who are more likely to flake.
She must have been really. Listen, she must have been really hot.
You might disagree with that though, because I get the feeling that you're pretty direct as well. So maybe
yes, yeah.
So but I mean, there can be an element of luck as well. I mean, I think, as I say, I think what tends to happen is that when they've got through the filter to the point where they've agreed to the date, they probably kind of know, they kind of know what I'm about. They know what I'm up for. And
That's
so
right.
if they've got that far, they're probably kind of up for it too. So then they're going to come and meet me. I think that's the only way I can theorize about it, really.
I don't know if you remember this article that I wrote for Return of Kings. It was called the pros and cons of game for black men in the West. That's the article. And to that point, I was just a guest contributor on Return of Kings. That was the article that got Roosh's attention because to that point, he didn't know I was black. Okay. And we had just lost Athlon McGuinness because I think he was the only African-American writer that we had over there. So we just lost Athlon McGuinness, who was a fucking superstar over there, but we had just lost him. So, he approaches me, hey, you don't want to be. So anyway, long story short, one of the things that I point out in terms of one of the advantages to being a black man in the West, one of the distinct advantages is that women tend to shit test us as a matter of confirmation rather than actually making us prove our sexual fitness to them. They say, okay, black guys are perceived to be alphas. Let me just poke and prod him a little bit. Okay, he's an alpha. I'm going to fuck him, whatever the case may be. But beforehand, that's the difficult part. If I'm a black guy and I approach a non-black woman in public during the daytime, it is feast or famine. I'm either going to get her phone number or she's going to completely blow me out or she's going to avoid the whole situation. And the reason for that is because non-black women assume that when black men approach them, we are trying to fuck. And they are correctly assuming that. So if they agree to a meetup, guess what, Troy? They are down to fuck. I can count on maybe one hand the number of times I've been flaked. Now, here's the thing. It's difficult to set up meetups sometimes, but I didn't often get flaked. And I think this goes to what you were saying. The better you get, whatever alpha advantages you have, you're not going to get flaked on that much. A guy like you, obviously, you're very direct. I'm very direct, et cetera, et cetera. We don't get flaked on that much, but it also comes with experience. The better you become at game, the less girls are going to flake on you. It's that simple.
I think that's probably, I think it probably does come down to that. And I mean, I don't want to misrepresent. It's not that I never get flaked. I mean, of course there have been occasions, but it's not such a big thing. It's not that it's happening so much that I'm thinking, shit, what do I do about flaking? I mean, there's also, obviously I'm based in the UK. Your guys watching this or listening to this may be based in the States. I mean, there are probably some sort of differences of that kind as well. But I mean, I don't think they're that marked actually. So the UK, we may be in Europe, but it's not like some kind of paradise over here by any means. I mean, it's a Western. Sure.
Right.
It's probably, from what I've seen, it's probably kind of on a par with the States, really, in terms of, the kind of the cultural kind of the dating environment here, if you like. So yeah, I think if guys are suffering, if guys are getting flaked on a lot, why might that be the case? Could it be because? I mean, let's face it. If she's not going to flake on Justin Bieber. She's not going to flake on.
Right, exactly. So what it comes down to is she wasn't attracted enough to you, or a better offer came along. That's what it comes down to. Sometimes it's not about you, man.
Well, I think it's often helpful to think about a celebrity. I mean, of course, none of us. Well, there might be, but I mean, I'm not a celebrity. You're not a celebrity.
I admit, I'm a celebrity.
You are a celebrity.
I confess.
You are a celebrity. But if you think of somebody like Bieber, or you think of Justin Timberlake, or you think of, I don't know,
Jay-Z.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was trying to think of someone a bit younger.
Oh, by the way, guys, nobody knows more about Jay-Z than this motherfucker right here. You would never, ever, ever know it. His name is Troy Francis. He's a white guy, and he's from London, England. Dude, you have written some brilliant articles on Jay-Z, man. Like, that's what got my attention about you the quickest.
That's right, that article, which I might even put that one up again on December the 4th, because
good, because that's his birthday.
I missed it. Because it's Jay-Z's birthday, isn't it? December the 4th.
Yep.
Oh, well, I can't do that. Maybe next year. But some of his early, as you know from that, some of his early stuff, we talk
Red
about
pill to the core, man.
his sort of. But I think that was the case. I think that's the case with a lot of hip hop, and I think with a lot of hip hop, there's a sort of a kind of an honesty about things that you probably don't get in a lot of the rest of the culture. You know.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Although it's probably a bit less now because the lyrics have all got. I mean, the lyrics have got a bit rubbish now and a lot of.
Oh God, yeah. What with the likes of Drake always talking about his ex.
Yeah.
Guys, Troy Francis here. We're gonna go ahead and finish things off with the last and most important question, and I put it to you, Troy. The title of the show: Are dating apps making person-to-person approach obsolete? A guy like you, right? Guys like you and me, we like to go out, day game, this and that and the other. But what would stop us from saving all the trouble, saving all the rejection, just grabbing our smartphones and swiping for ass just like everybody else?
Well, I think guys who are doing just that, they are missing a trick because I mean, actually, I've got Tinder at the moment, and I've also got Bumble. Have you guys got Bumble in this?
Yeah, we do, but I am staunchly against Bumble because the girls pick you. Oh, see, you already know. Yeah, you already know.
Yeah. I downloaded Bumble, and the only reason I got it was because they were giving out free orange juice outside this place I was working.
Oh, shit, man. Hell yeah. You got to get it now, right? Free fucking orange juice. I'm in.
Yeah. So I downloaded it, and actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought because I was actually getting some. I thought, oh, this is going to be a desert, and it's only going to be the guys with the the chiseled abs and everything else. But actually, not that I don't have chiseled abs, but I thought it's going to be the male models who are going to get the attention, and,
sure.
And that's it. Actually, for whatever reason, maybe because the market's a bit less saturated than Tinder, I found I was actually getting some matches, and quite a few girls were messaging me, and
oh shit.
So it was kind of working, but to the point. The problem, well. The first problem with dating apps, the first problem with something like Tinder is that I think it is oversaturated. I think in London it's oversaturated. So predominantly you're being judged on your looks. So the guys who smash it on Tinder, and I've got friends who smash it on Tinder, and they are almost to a man, 6'4",
sure.
chiseled, great looking guys, and clearly. Those guys, because it's a visual medium, so those guys are going to get great results because they're hot guys. They are, they're visually very appealing, and that's what Tinder is essentially set up for.
It's a meat market on both ends. Because listen, I'm not gonna swipe for a fucking fat chick. Fuck that.
So yeah, absolutely. So if you are that guy, then yeah, I mean, you can clean up on Tinder. You can be, you can be shagging, as we say in the UK. You can be having sex with different girls every night. Great, But I think you're missing a trick. But certainly, if you're not that guy, I think you need to think about your strategy. If you're somewhere in the middle, and I mean, I've had success on Tinder. It's worked for me. I'm not like some of these people who write about game who say, oh, you should never use apps. It should all be about approaching, because for me it's just another lead source. I don't really care if I met her on Tinder.
Fill up your pipeline, right?
It's like whatever. So yeah, I'll spend a bit of time on Tinder, but it's not my main thing. And the massive advantage of cold approach is, for a start, you can go after exactly the girls that you want. And you can see what you're getting.
Oh God, yes. You don't get catfished, as we say here in the States.
Yeah, I mean it's like ordering clothes online, isn't it? I mean it looks. It turns up, and I had a terrible experience. I've had 3 terrible dates from Bumble in a row. And I think I'm now not going to use Bumble anymore because, and I mean one of them. I think I wrote about this on Twitter, but maybe on my site, but. There was this girl, and I was chatting to her, and she looked pretty cute. And I made the classic rookie error, which was that it was all headshots. There wasn't really any full body.
Oh, Troy.
But in my defense, she did that when we transferred onto WhatsApp, because that's what you should always do. You chat to them for a bit, then you say, give me your WhatsApp, and you start talking to her on that. So you take her off the app. When we did that, she did send me a few pictures of body shots, and it was looking pretty good. So I thought, okay, this is cool. Now I was staying in a service department, temporary service department at the time in London. So I basically invited her straight over there. I thought, sod it, I'll just get her straight over and let's get the deed done, because it was all very hot and heavy on the messages and everything. She turned up and I saw her and I was like, oh God, that's not quite that's not quite what I'd done.
Oh, I love it.
What I'd ordered, but she saw me, and I was sort of like, I mean, I'm not averse to being very rude in those situations, and just but she'd seen me, and it's kind of like, I'm gonna have to kind of do so. So I had to take her up to the room where I was staying. We sat there, and she was drinking some wine, and I was looking at her face. She was pretty, so I was kind of thinking, I don't know, can I do this? Can I?
This is great. This is great.
I'm just sort of like, we're talking for like, and we sat there for a good like 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes chatting, and I was like, this is here on a plate. I could just do it, and can I do this? And in the end, I was just like, oh, I just don't, I just don't.
There it is.
I basically invented it. I said, look, somebody's called me. I'm going to do a conference call at 10 o'clock, and she was like, and I mean, I felt kind of bad about it, but she was.
Oh, please give me a break, man. Think about the many guys she blew out before you did that. This is what, man. This is why she doesn't listen. Women don't deserve you, Troy. Me, I'm that asshole, man. Like I've been, dude, I've been hit on by like ugly chicks, but this one fat chick comes up and hits on me at the gas station, right? She's like, "Oh, what's your name?" I said, no, sweetheart, move along. It's not that kind of party over here. Fat white girl. I said, move along. It's not that kind of party. She's like, well, you didn't have to be rude. I said, yeah, actually, I kind of did. Move along, sweetie. I'm out of your league. Oh, yeah. Dude, I was a complete dick about it, man. I don't give a fuck with these bitches, man. Like, dude.
But you're right. They are to us,
That's exactly right.
We'll get guys will get harsh blowouts all the time, and I mean the funny thing is that girls find it very hard to when the shoe's on the other foot. So this girl, I mean, I was kind of very, I mean, I wasn't. This is me, I'm not taking my own advice. I wasn't dark trying enough, I'm actually being quite British and polite about it. And,
of course.
Sorry, I've got to do this conference call, and she's looking at me like going, she goes, well, we got half an hour. I'll do anything. And I'm like,
you'll do anything, but it's got to go both ways there, sweetie.
I was like, actually, I kind of got to prepare. So, and she was really pissed off, and she was clearly not upset, but she was like, well, I've got myself all ready and everything, now throwing me out. And girls find it really hard when the table.
They don't handle rejection. Yeah, they don't handle rejection well at all, man.
Yeah,
rejection. They do not. Listen, Troy. I'm so glad I did not have to take your player card, dude. Because I was worried. Man. I was like, oh no, Troy, please don't tell me you did this. Lie to us, please. But
no, it was a schoolboy error, and some guy was giving me some shit on Twitter because he was saying, well, why did you even, you bringing unattractive girls back to your place? But the thing is, I hadn't seen her before. It wasn't like I took her back to my place. I just invited her over, and then when she was there, I was like,
fuck it. You filtered her out.
Yeah, but but this is the problem with the apps, because you don't know until they turn up exactly what they're going to look like physically, but also, is there going to be that spark there? Is there going to be that chemistry there? Now, by contrast, when you cold approach a girl, for a start, you know that you think she's hot because you were.
Sure. Yeah, you're seeing her out, 360 view.
Yeah. And secondly, you get a vibe. You talk to her for a couple of minutes or for however long, and you get a vibe. Is there something between us? Is there a bit of spark here? Is this going to be kind of fun? And you kind of know. And for me, that massively outweighs, what you get with the likes of Tinder. So, as well, I think girls are very used to using Tinder, and they're very used to using Bumble. But if you do a cold approach and you do it well, you still get a massive cut through. You still, you walk in front of a girl and you're on point and you're confident. And I mean, they are blown away. They get the doggy dinner bell eyes. They are massively attracted, because you've had so I'm going tomorrow to Russia to see this girl that I met through a cold approach at the airport in Zurich. And she said to me, you were so courageous. She said, I've never, guys normally don't do this. I see guys looking at me, but they don't come up and talk to me. And you came up and talked to me, and and she was blown away by it. Now, That doesn't always happen with cold approach, but it happens enough that it makes it worthwhile.
Listen, man, I tell people all the time, and you can vouch for this, Troy.
Yeah.
Hot girls, 9s and 10s, you'd be surprised at how much more pleasant they are than 6s, 7s, and 8s. Because hot girls don't get hit. Guys think that hot girls get dick thrown at them all the time. In other words, they get attention. Okay, fair enough. But hot girls don't get hit on. Hot girls don't get a dude like Donovan rolling up. Hi, I'm Donovan, looking him right in the eye and making no bones about what I'm angling for. All right.
Yeah.
Hot girls don't. And that's why she said, you were brave. Like, I'm a hot chick. Guys don't just come up and talk to me like that, but you did. And now she's intrigued.
Exactly. And so what you get is just through the actual action of doing the approach itself, you add some points. You gain points in your sexual market value. Now, if that same girl had seen me on Tinder, you know, maybe she would have swiped. Which way is it? Swipe right.
I've never been on Tinder before, so I don't know.
Swipe
up. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe she would have liked me, but maybe not, because she'd have seen a few pictures and she's like, yeah, this guy kind of, you know, whatever.
And you want to know something, Troy? Any guy can swipe right. It's easy to talk. It's easy to text a girl. It takes balls to approach a girl, man. It takes balls to approach a girl face to face.
Yeah. So just by the act of doing that, I raise my sexual market value in her eyes. You know, suddenly I go from, I don't know, whatever, you know, like a 6 or 7 or whatever it would have been to, you know, to an 8 or a 9 or, you know, whatever the figures would be. But suddenly I go up a number of points because I've done that. So, you know, it's more effort initially than Tinder, but the benefits that you get are greater. And you know, the thing about, you're saying about hot girls, 100% right. I mean, some of the best responses I've had have been from the prettiest girls, the most beautiful.
Yes, of course.
Some of the harshest blowouts I've had.
From 6s and fucking 7s, man. Yeah. Unbelievable. Like, you're blowing me out? Like, look at you. Yeah, unbelievable, man. But the reason for this, Troy, is because 6s and 7s get hit on the most. The reason they get hit on the most is because guys assume that 6s and 7s are easier to fuck than 9s and 10s, and they're right. But 9s and 10s, here's the contrast. 9s and 10s are easier to approach than 6s and 7s, right? It's listen, fucking 9s and 10s is not easy, especially on the first date. You got to put some work in. As soon as you get past those initial shit tests with 6s and 7s, dude, fucking them is like shooting fish in a fucking barrel. They're literally dropping their opinions. All right, let's do this.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, one thing that's interesting that I've noticed is that the best interactions I have tend to be with the girls that I am actually really genuinely attracted to.
Right.
Rather than, you know, because I mean, I try to get the numbers in, you know, and we're talking about it being a numbers game, and I try to get the numbers in. So I approach quite a lot. You know, I want to be I just want to be that guy who just approaches girls all the time. It's almost like it's funny. Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, yeah, I hit on loads of girls. That's just my personality. You know, take it or leave it. That's just how it is. So I hit on a load of girls. So maybe I'll hit on, like, you know, 10 girls in a day or something like that. You know, and you do that for a period of time. And not all of those girls are going to be 8s or 9s, just because they're not. You know. So sometimes I'll be going through the motions a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I'll see someone, I think, oh, she's okay. I'll go and talk to her, see what happens. You know, to get to almost get the numbers up. But what's really interesting is that the ones that I'm actually really attracted to, on a really gut sort of visceral level, that's when the interaction really sparks often. You know, that's when her response is better. It's really intense between us because there's no bullshit. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just doing it, but, you know, there's genuine attraction there, and she can feel that, and that sort of attracts her. And those things, those are the best ones. Do you know what I mean? And also, those are the girls you actually want to get. So it's amazing. So I would say to guys watching or listening, don't be afraid to approach those girls that you to, because for a start, you'll regret it if you don't. And secondly, you know, the chances are you'll get a better reception than you would have done anyway with somebody less.
Good stuff. Troy, tell the people where they can find you.
So if you go to my website, which is www.realtroyfrancis.com, I'm updating that every day. So there's a fresh article about game, pickup girls, and some other stuff on there as well, some lifestyle, travel type stuff as well on occasions, various think pieces and so on. Go to that website, and every day you'll find fresh content from me. If you look me up on YouTube, I've got a small at the moment YouTube channel, but I'm building that up. So if you search Troy Francis on YouTube, you'll find me there, and I'm uploading videos onto that. I do a podcast, which has been slightly sporadic recently, but I'm basically gearing up for every week again. You can find that via my website. And also just check me out on Twitter. So the place where I'm most is Twitter. So if you go to @Troy7Laws on Twitter, or just look for Troy Francis, then you'll find me there. If you follow me there, I'm there every day. I'm posting a lot on there, getting into conversations with guys and so on. So and just putting some like regular updates on there as well. So if something happens, I'll take a picture, stick it up there, and so I try to keep that as direct and as updated as I can.
Troy, it's been a pleasure, man. Appreciate you coming on with us tonight. Thank you.
No worries, man. It's been great. It's really great to see you and talk to you.
Talk to you guys tomorrow.